Welcome, mountain bikers. Cooler than Freddie Jackson sipping a milkshake in a snowstorm. We have to rip off Outkast to describe today's guest, Mr. Cool John Hall, Aaron Gwin's mechanic, fresh off a win at the Croatia World Cup downhill race. It was really cool to hear the story about how John got to where he is, being Aaron's mechanic. He's a hard worker. He kind of followed his gut and his passion when the time came to do so, and it's put him in the place he is today. He has lots of cool stories about growing up racing BMX, being a Bender fan, and we talk about tools, bikes, keeping things simple. He sort of reflects that almost simplicity and hard work are a recipe for success. So I hope you enjoy the podcast. It was 2 hours long, and when we got done, I had no idea that it was that long. So hopefully it flies by for you and you learn something. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy. This Vital MTB Inside Line podcast is brought to you by Jensen USA. Shop for great deals and get professional advice on your favorite bikes, components, and riding gear. Over 2 million happy cyclists served since 1994. Visit jensenusa.com/the Inside Line podcast and use code INSIDELINE for 10% off qualifying items. Maxxis Tires, where the rubber meets the dirt. Maxxis makes no compromise tires for any rider, any trail, anytime. Oh, dog. Does he bark ever?
No.
Doesn't look like a barker.
No. When he gets excited, like around other dogs, I've gotten him to bark when he's trying to get him to play.
Yeah.
And he'll bark then. I think I had him for like 3 years before I ever heard him bark. And it's when I was living with Chappie, and I heard a dog barking. And his dog barks, but it wasn't his dog.
Okay.
Like, what? Whose dog is that? It's like our neighbors didn't have dogs. And I walked outside, and he's just like staring at the sky, barking. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what he's barking at. It was a bird or what? He's like looking at the sky, just barking randomly. I was like, what in the world do you do?
That's awesome. You ready to do this?
Yeah, man. I'm down.
Get rolling here.
Sick.
I'm a little stuffy after my ride, it sounds like here. Yeah, just run off a quick little intro. We'll get into it. Have you ever listened to any of these?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, dude. I try to listen to all of them. It's like
sick.
I don't want to say the only podcast, but like within the industry, like it's really fun to listen to. There's some
cool.
good people. Like everybody you interview, it's like sick. I want to hear what they have to say about things.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's been the most fun part. Like I just sit there and like hear stories and yeah, it's fun. That's what we're doing today.
I was going to say there's a lot to be told, man, that people don't know.
Yep. All right, everyone. Welcome to Vital MTB's The Inside Line podcast. I'm Sean Spomer, and we're here with someone fresh off a World Cup downhill win, the notorious John Hall, a.k.a. Juan Hall, man who keeps Aaron Gwin's bike running strong. How you be, dude?
Doing good, man.
Yeah?
Stoked to get on one of these things, man. Honored.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
A-list celebrities that do these things.
Dude, World Cup winner multiple times, you're on it. So do you feel like it's a win for you too?
For sure. Yeah. I think it's a win for the whole team. And like when Aaron wins, there's a lot of hard work that goes into these things, especially, I mean, mainly from the rider's perspective. Those guys bust their butts, but there's a big team behind all of them on all the teams.
Yeah.
So good results, stoke everybody out.
Cool. All right. We'll get into all the history and all that stuff, but we're fresh off Croatia. How stressed were you that wheels and tires were going to explode? Like, what was going through your head with this race?
Yeah, definitely leading up to it. The first helmet cams came out and the pictures and stuff, and then the old keyboard warriors start going, and you look at it, and right from the very beginning, I had a pretty open mind about the track.
Yeah.
Without seeing it, I tend to reserve judgment until I get there and see what's going on. So, but it was a concern for sure, like seeing how rocky it was and how sharp those rocks were. I was like, man, like I think it's going to be a race of, seeing who can maintain their equipment.
Yeah.
And so we were worried for sure, because anything can happen, and like that just ups those stakes. So coming into it, though, we got there, and after talking with Angel, because he went there a few weeks before the race, And he didn't really have any issues when he went there for the test. And I was like, man, like, cool. Like, that's a pretty good sign as well. And then first day of practice rolls around, and, you know, B practice guys are going by, and you're seeing just flat after flat and mangled wheel, and dudes coming down in slings. And I'm like, oh, no, like, this isn't a good start.
Did you see the Valley Holes video?
Yep.
And just, I mean, we figured, like, dude, she's flatting and denting rims. Like, what are everyone else going to do? You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we saw that. I mean, I just tend to reserve judgment even after seeing videos like that. Like, I just don't like to make a decision until I see it for myself and in person and stuff like that. So, so that didn't worry me too much. It was when I was there, and you see all these guys coming down with flats and in slings and course holds and all this stuff like that. And because Angel hasn't raced last year and with injuries and stuff, he was in B practice. So we're up early with him and at the truck, and he got one flat in practice, and which was really good actually. And it wasn't even, it was like a puncture, like an actual, like almost like a stab wound on top of the tire. Okay. And when I saw that, it kind of clicked in my head. I was like, man, I think that's going to be the issue, is getting offline. And, you know, you hit one of those sharp rocks just right, and it's going to slice a tire or stab a tire. Okay. And
so that was the main line kind of, were they not as sharp, like sort of kind of worn in or something?
No, I mean, there was a main line, but there was, with that many rocks and stuff, there was a ton of lines in there, but they weren't those obvious, like, you know, when there's a turn and then a straight line, like it wasn't like an obvious fast line or something like that. It was a line of inches. You know, it looked like somebody's riding over the same exact line, but somebody was 1 or 2 inches to the left or to the right, which was either smoother or rougher, or that's where a sharp rock was that they were avoiding. Okay. So, but after the first day of practice, man, like, honestly didn't worry about it too much. We got one flat, and again, it was the same as what Angel did. It was like a stab wound on top. Okay. And Aaron knew it. He was like, I got offline, like, and smoked the rock. Like, I
the
saw
whole
it.
weekend, one flat.
Yep.
Man, did you guys run stock like FTD and Onza? That's it? Like nothing crazy?
Yep. Just an FTD in front and rear and normal air pressures. Like,
really? You didn't even bump up air pressure?
Nope. We tried a little bit higher air pressure, and we ended up going back down. And so I don't know, man, it was, I don't want to say it was a weird weekend, but I don't think the speeds were there on that track. I don't think it was as steep as, like, you know, obviously not as steep as like Val de Sol or anything like that, but there's never a chance to fully get up to the speeds that those guys ride a lot of tracks.
Really?
And so I think that was what it was. You know, if they would have opened up those sections and really been hitting those rocks at those speeds, there probably would have been more broken wheels. Yeah, we didn't break one wheel. We got one flat all weekend. Yeah. And it was great. Like, I was even looking at the tires at the end of the day, excuse me, after the first day of practice, and the rear is always usually at least a little bit more chewed up than the front. Like, I could have ran the same tires the next day. Like, they were literally still new.
Yeah, kind of just break free, like roll through.
Exactly.
And, like, tread's not getting torn off.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on the same hand, though, I think, you know, I heard it from a lot of riders that it was tough to feel like you were going fast just because those speeds weren't there. Yeah. And so everybody felt real awkward and slow, and you didn't feel fast. And then until, like, qualifying times came out, and you're like, okay, I am on pace. It's just one of those tracks where you're not going as fast, so you don't feel fast. And but I honestly think that's what saved most people's equipment. Yeah. So, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was a great weekend for us.
Yeah, cool. Well, congrats.
Thanks, man.
That was pretty cool. It's sick to hear just one flat, and you ran just kind of normal setup. Yeah. And even pressures. Like, I figured you had to bump them up, but.
No, yeah. I mean, we tried. We thought so as well. Like, we're like, cool, like, let's bump up pressure. Let's play it on the safe side. And then it just didn't quite feel right, so we ended up going back down. Yeah. So it was sick.
Cool. Dude, that's awesome.
Made it easy on me.
Yeah. All right. What was the hardest part about Croatia for you as a mechanic? And then do you work on Angel's bike too?
No.
You just kind of...
Nope. We actually got a new mechanic this year for Angel.
Yep.
In Croatia. He went to that test session with Angel as like their first kind of get to know each other, see if it's going to work out and stuff like that. And it went really well. And then so he came to Croatia with us, and that was kind of his trial race. If everything went good, we're going to bring him on board. If not, we're going to look for somebody else. But man, he killed it. Like
cool.
He did really good for Angel, and Angel likes him to get along good. And so he's a hard worker, so we're stoked to have him.
Yeah, sick. So what was the, for you, the hardest part about the Croatia race?
I don't know, man. It was, nothing stands out that much for me. Boy, it wasn't that hard for me. Like he wasn't breaking wheels, wasn't flatting. It just, it was really easy on me. Even as far as suspension goes, we only made a couple little changes on that. Yeah. And, Jordy at Fox was there for most of those changes. And I don't know. I think the hardest thing was just it being the first race and, not knowing if you've done enough testing, if your setup is good coming in, and you don't know any of that until, usually either the end of the first practice or after qualifying, But after that, it was like we're on pace. We got speed. Yeah. Things are holding together. Like Aaron feels good. Like just kind of just start checking boxes really. Huh. And so it was a really good weekend overall. Like there was nothing hard about it. Everything flowed really good. Like as a team, like we all showed up. And I mean, it's the third year together now. And truck park, setup went smooth. Everybody just kind of jumped right back into their roles, and setup went easy, smooth. Teardown went setup easy, smooth. Like it was kind of one of those weekends where you couldn't really ask for much more. Yeah,
like the experience kind of paying off, all coming together, I guess.
Yeah, man, it was. It's just one of those little things where things just start clicking off, and you just keep doing that.
Yeah. We'll get into kind of your history, your past, all that stuff. But since we're on it, do you feel like going to a place like Bootleg helps with something like Croatia, like just the sharp, gnarly rocks, or is it kind of indifferent?
Yeah. If we're going to find a local track or track near us that's going to compare to that, Bootleg would be it. Real hard, sharp rocks and stuff like that, and rough kind of all the way down. But, we go to Bootleg every year. So it wasn't like we're going to go to Bootleg to prepare for Croatia. Okay. We go to Bootleg every year just because it's a really fun preseason race for us to go to. And the preseason races are more of a kind of just to get that feeling of being in a start gate. It's good for him, to get in the start gate, get those feelings going, kind of the mental space you got to be in to prepare for a race run and stuff like that. Because you don't want your first race, obviously, to be the first World Cup.
World Cup, yep.
And then, as well for me, like I remember my routines and stuff like that because you go through a whole off season not racing and doing other things, and you kind of get into like testing mode, and that's a lot different than racing mode. So it's good for me as well to get in there and remember where all my tools are, and kind of like if there is a flat, how I can quickly change it or be the most efficient, and making sure that I'm prepared and with what spares I need to have on hand easily and what I can kind of leave in the truck and stuff like that. So, Bootleg definitely helped, I'm sure, prepare for Croatia, but it wasn't like we're going there to prepare for Croatia. Yeah, we go there every year. It's just a really fun race to go to.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about the new bike, more racing, all that stuff, but let's get some John Hall history. How'd you get here? Born and raised, getting into bikes, like what you did before being pro mechanic, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of I guess in hindsight, it's always fun to look back on. But I was born and raised in South Dakota, born in a little town called Belfouche, basically raised in town about 10 miles away in Spearfish.
Okay. Where's that? Like,
it's in the Black Hills.
Rectangle. Okay.
So basically it's the state of South Dakota is split by the river. So we kind of break it up into East River, West River. Okay. I'm on the West River out in the Black Hills, Mount Rushmore for people who aren't familiar, like that area. So it's super awesome, man. It's a great area to grow up in. And then I got into bikes in like middle school. Buddy of mine had a BMX bike, and of course, like I wanted one and everything like that. Begged and my mom got me a used Dyno D Air from like this little bike shop that I don't even remember the name of it, man. I remember where it was, but
what year was this about?
See, I was probably in 5th or 6th grade, so 96, right around in there, like mid 90s. And then just kind of, cruising around with your buddies on BMX bikes, you know. And my buddy's older brother and his friends all rode BMX. And so, of course, we're trying to, like, hang out with them and ride around and stuff. And ended up meeting now one of my best friends from high school or from back home, Aaron Chahoy. And then he and I started riding bikes together. And then we ran into, like, a group of BMXers, like, riding around town. Uh-huh. And they were the coolest dudes, and they're like, yo, what's up? Like, you guys want to come? Like, we're going to ride. Like, if you guys want to go.
Is this like street BMX?
Yep. Yeah, just riding around the street and stuff. We're like, heck yeah, like, these dudes are super cool. And that turned out to be my buddy Rory Zimbelman and Jordan LeDuc and a couple of those dudes. And so that was like our BMX crew kind of through middle school and into high school. And Rory and Jordan raced BMX, and so they got us into dirt jumping and then going out to the BMX track and then got us into racing.
So do you have trails back there, like jumps?
Yeah. We had a whole spot that Rory and Jordan actually built up. We called it Plateau Trails because it was just up on like this little plateau. Uh-huh. And there's like this little, basically like an irrigation ditch that ran down below it. And of course, being the Groms, like we had to walk down with like 5-gallon buckets. I'm like 12 years old with 2 5-gallon buckets full of water trying to hike back up this hill. And by the time I get back up there, I probably got like a quarter bucket combined, like just soaking wet.
That's so good.
Yeah. But, so yeah, from pretty early age, we got that full trail experience there. Cool. And being the Groms building. So yeah, and then that turned into racing with going to races with Rory and Jordan. They started going to nationals. Rory's on like a grassroots Schwinn sponsorship, like Free Frames or something like that. Okay.
Were tracks there? Were they inside, like indoor tracks?
No, they're all outdoor. We only had when I first started racing, there's only one track, and it was in Lead Deadwood. Okay. Lead Deadwood's kind of like Temecula Murrieta style. Okay. And so there's one track there, and that's where I first started. And dude, it was like a rebar gate that like dropped manually. Like it was old school, like shale. I mean, it was in like a shale pit. Like it was, but looking back now, it was cool. And then bigger tracks got built, and there's a couple of them around there that were a bit better. And man, I remember with the first track that got an air gate, I was like, dude, this is so pro. Like we're on it now. And then Rory went around to a few nationals, and did it, like I started going with him. And my mom, looking back now, I'm like, I can't believe my mom. Sorry, Mom, but like, I can't believe she let me go with these guys. I'm like 13, 14 years old, and I think Jordan was 16, Rory was like 23 or 21 or something around in there, and like traveling around to nationals, you know. And I just jump in the truck with these dudes and go to Oklahoma, like go to Salt Lake, go to Rockford, like all these BMX nationals. And I remember my budget being $300 for every race, which was massive. Like, but that covered food, gas, entry fees, hotels. And like sometimes it still wasn't enough. And dude, there'd be other local dudes from our area go to the same national, and they'd have a hotel. We're like, yeah, we'll just like meet at your hotel for dinner or whatever. And we'd go to dinner and go back to their hotel, and then we'd just like hang around and then kind of not ever leave and just end up sleeping on their floor because like we just didn't
money, right?
Yeah, dude, we just didn't have like money for a hotel, or we'd sleep in the truck. Yeah. Like, I mean, it was fun, man. It was cool experiences.
Heck yeah.
So tons of stories from those days. Yeah. And then fast forward to that. We were all three of us, me, Jordan, and Rory were on our way to Tulsa for the Grands one year, and got in a bad car accident. We're like just outside of Grand Island, Nebraska. And I was driving, had my mom's truck. Rory's in the passenger seat, and Jordan was like laying down in the back seat. Mm-hmm. And if you know that area, man, it's the longest, straightest, flattest road.
Been through there.
And there was a car parked like not parked, but like stopped in the lane. It's just a 2-lane country highway.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I grew up on those roads. So like you can see for miles, and like I pulled into the other lane, peered out, and nobody coming, driving speed limit. And like just went to go, no flashers, no brake lights, like just sitting there. Slowed down a bit because it's like, this is a bit weird to go around them.
Yep.
And then at the very last second, they turned left to go down like this gravel road. And I just slammed on the brakes and like just smoked them.
Shut up.
And rolled our truck 2.5 times. They just spun around in circles because they hit like their front clip. And there's a car full of high school kids. And dude, they had weed in the car. They had some other drugs, some mercury. They were all like snorting or doing something with mercury, man. Like, so they're all high basically, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can put this in here, but
Yeah, okay. That's the story, dude. Let's hear it.
And so we don't know this at the time, but I just, man, it was, I mean, if you ever rolled a vehicle, it's just pure chaos. None of us had seatbelts on just because it like wasn't the cool thing to do. And it was like back in the day. And so I just remember coming to, and Jordan like yelling my name. Like, I think I went out, like I was unconscious, and I think he thought I was dead.
Yeah.
But I was like still holding on the steering wheel upside down. And then like I came to, and then, so when we hit, the impact threw Jordan into the front seat. And then when we started rolling, Rory and Jordan went into the back seat and landed like behind me in the driver's seat.
Jeez,
and the whole passenger side of the truck was like smashed down into the headrests. So like, had we had our seatbelts on, like, I mean, I always wear my seatbelt now and I fully advocate it, but that was one of those times, man, that like,
dude, might have been smushed.
Yeah, might have been smushed had we like had them on.
Holy shit, dude.
So it was a pretty crazy story. So
yeah. And I mean, you're BFE, right? Like, was it just you and the other car? Like, were other people around
basically
quickly?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's cars coming as well that saw the accident. They rolled up on it, called ambulances and stuff. So yeah, get all that. I mean, we had pop in the back, and like, so it was like that all exploded and it was sticky everywhere, dude. Our bikes were freaking scattered up and down the ditch, like like clothes and suitcases everywhere, gear bags, like it was nuts. So we ended up getting to the hospital. Rory ended up breaking his neck, and I don't remember if he had it fused or not, but basically he couldn't ride bikes anymore. Like he was fine, but like doctors like, you can't ride BMX bikes anymore just because of the position they put you in. And Grand's is always on Thanksgiving. Jordan and I spent Thanksgiving in a hotel while my parents drove down to pick us up. Rory had to spend a few days in the hospital and then eventually got transferred back home. And so that was like a real bummer on the whole BMX life and the riding and stuff, because like those were our boys, and it's a small town. We were literally the only guys who rode. Mm-hmm. And then you lose your crew, and it's like I don't want to ride bikes anymore, man. Like, this kind of sucked. Yeah, didn't really feel like racing just because they weren't there, and it's like, Yeah. So Rory, he ends up getting better and buys a mountain bike because he's not going to stop riding bikes. Yeah. And I think he got it was a downhill bike. It was like a Kona Stab Primo or something like that. Or a Stinky. I don't remember which one it was. But I remember him getting it, and I'm like, my mind was blown. I was like, what? Like riding around the parking lot, and it's just this full couch, man. Like, remember those huge downhill seats too they had on? They were like a foot long.
Yep. Yeah, the Konas had the massive rocker arms and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And so like I just smash over a curb. I'm like, I didn't even feel it. Like, this thing's so cool. So I ended up getting a Specialized Demo 8. And just to ride downhill with him. And so that's kind of how like we transitioned to riding mountain bikes, because our buddy couldn't ride BMX anymore. He could ride mountain bikes. So then we all just started riding mountain bikes, so we could all like keep riding bikes together. Yeah.
So I mean, I assume there were trails there if you guys are getting downhill bikes. Like,
there were no downhill trails, so like we built our own, and it was all based off of like New World Disorder and Bender and all this stuff. So it's like, dude,
we're kind of like bluff landscape out there, like sort of that style.
On, these like plateaus and bluffs that we'd like ride down and ride off of, and then like we're BMXers, so then there would be like dirt jumps at the end of it. So we're hitting dirt jumps on our downhill bikes and stuff.
That's so sick.
And so yeah, we kind of transitioned mountain bikes that way, and then we weren't really riding cross country or anything like that. Right. I had the owner of the bike shop, like, for just kind of working for free, gave me like a used Kona. I don't remember the name of it. It was a hardtail though. I think I still have it at home.
Really?
And so that was my first like mountain bike, but then I got the Demo 8 just so I could ride with my buddies and stuff. And by this time we were 17 or 18. And then I decided to join the Marine Corps And then, so I left for that, and I did the Marine Corps for 4 years. And then I got out and still had my downhill bike back home in South Dakota.
Okay.
And when I got out, I was like, do I want to go back to South Dakota? Do I want to stay here? Like, I hated California when I first came to it.
Okay.
I despised it.
Were you stationed out here? Is that?
Yep.
Okay.
So I was stationed in Camp Pendleton.
Okay.
And
dude, you hated it?
Hated it.
Pendleton, it's like Oceanside, right?
I know. Yeah, basically.
Okay.
So, you got to understand where I came from. Like, I came from a small town in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody. Like, if you don't wave when you see somebody on a gravel road, like, you're an a-hole.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came out. My sister was living in Camarillo with her husband at the time. And so we came out just before I went to boot camp to visit him for Thanksgiving. And so we come out, and it's kind of like stuff's kind of hectic, but I'm like, I expected it. But then she sets up, the full tour, like, let's go to Hollywood and, all this stuff and museums and all that. And like, I just remember being on the freeways and everybody's going. So I'm like, where's everybody going?
Yeah.
Why do they have to go there so fast? Yeah. Why are they cutting you off? All these houses are a foot apart. Like, you can smell your neighbor's fart. I'm like, what the heck? My dad always used to say that.
That's so funny. It's so true.
Like, yeah. And he's like, it's just like, oh, like, how do people want to live like this? This is insane. Yeah. And I left knowing going into boot camp that when I was done and like when it came time to choose my duty station, I had 3 options: East Coast, West Coast, or Japan. I was like, well, I joined the Marine Corps to like get some travel out of it. So Japan, is going to be first option for me. And like, screw California. So East Coast is the second option, and California is my last option. Yeah. We got our orders, and it was like, what was I then? PFC or something like that. He's like, PFC Hall. He's like, Camp Pendleton, California, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. I was like, dang it. But the only thing made it better is my good buddy got the same unit and stuff. Okay. And so we were going there together, and I'm like, well, at least I know somebody and got a friend and stuff. But so the more time I spent here, like, actually, realized that California is not Hollywood. And there's so many more cool areas. You get out into the mountains and the hills, and there's a ton of different beaches, and California is it's not even Oceanside. There's San Diego and Encinitas and all the way up into LA and Ventura and stuff. So once I spent enough time here to like get used to it, and then realize that there's so much more to do, like, I loved it.
Cool.
So
was serving in the military like kind of family thing? Was that something you just wanted to do? Like,
no, that wasn't a family thing. Unless like a distant relative served, I'm the only one in recent times in my family.
Yeah. Why'd you decide to do it? Especially Marines, like the gnarliest of the bunch, right?
Well, I don't know. I remember when 9/11 happened, like, people our age kind of remember everything about that, like where you were and stuff. And I remember it happening. And then afterwards, like, friends of mine that I rode and raced BMX with were seniors in high school, and they were joining the Army and joining the Marine Corps and stuff. And I was like, man, good on them. Like, that's gnarly, but like, I could never do that. And then it came like, a couple years later, and 2 of my buddies joined and went to the Marine Corps. And I was like, they came back from boot camp because they went like right after graduation, high school graduation. And they came back from boot camp, and it was like the end of our summer after, high school and stuff. And I ran into one of them at the mall, my buddy, Chris Culver. And I ran into him at the mall. I was like, dude, like, what's up? Like, so good to see you. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, I'm just here back on recruiting duty after boot camp. If I get 3 guys to come in to the office and talk to the recruiter, I can go home. Like, you're my third, like, what do you say? Yeah, I've done 2 guys. Could you be my third? And like, after that, we'll go home. Like, there's a kegger tonight. Like, we'll go party.
Yeah.
Like, heck yeah, dude, let's go.
Thinking you just go see this dude in the office and be like, later.
Just helping my buddy out.
Yeah.
And so I go in, and dude, if you've ever been in a recruiting office, or those guys that have joined, those guys can sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. Like, they're good. So, I was hooked. Like, I walked in and I was hooked. And then I ended up joining. I thought, I just felt like I didn't want to regret not joining. I knew that there was a chance that like down the line, I'd look back and go, dang it, like, shoulda, coulda, woulda. And I don't like to live like that.
Yeah.
Like, if there's an opportunity, I like to take it. And so I thought that'd be a good opportunity for me. And college I'm not a college guy. and I was signed up to go be a diesel mechanic at Wild Tech. And, you know, because I've always been good with my hands and want to be some sort of mechanic. And I was like, yeah, you know, like just, this would be a lot cooler. I can always go back and, you know, get my school paid for through this and go back and be a diesel mechanic if I really want to do it.
Yep.
And so, I joined.
Cool.
Yeah, it was, it's still like to this day, like best decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
You know,
Was boot camp as gnarly as it
seems?
Yeah,
man. But you get used to it like anything else. Like it's just that initial shock, and you get there and you literally go, everybody says that you have your, like that one moment where, like, crap, what did I do? Like, I'm stuck here. Like, oh no, I don't know if I can do this.
Did you have that?
Yeah, it was like the first day they pick you up. They call it Black Friday. The first day you meet your drill instructors. And this kid, my bunkmate, it's called standing on line. When you stand on line, like, you do not move. Like, you don't look left, you don't look right, up, down. Like, you don't even basically breathe without permission. And this kid was getting yelled at, and it's like day one, and my bunkmate looks down the line, looks left, like, because this guy's just getting his ass chewed down there. And drill instructor sees it and just comes screaming down at him. Gets right in his face, and like, kid doesn't know what to do. Like, guy yelling in his face, and he starts backing up between the racks and like gets back to the wall, and like the kid basically tripped as he's going back, like right as he got to the wall in the window, and his head popped the window. And it's like, dude, these are, if you know those windows in these boot camp or in the barracks down there, like they're from the 80s, they're single pane,
single
like,
plate glass.
Dude, they're so wimpy. And so his head just like bumped the window and it broke. And then, you know, drill instructor doesn't stop. So his kid's like on his back, basically with his head out the window. This drill instructor's screaming in his face. And I'm going, in my head, I'm just going, what in the hell is going on?
Yeah,
like, and it ended up being like the drill instructor actually got in some trouble for it. A big investigation or whatever. Nobody said a word because it was just like, it was a full accident, you know. And it was not intentional. And the guy, like, everybody thought that the drill instructor put the kid's head through the window, but the kid just tripped and like bumped and like hit it. So it was not that big a deal, but like that was my day one. And I'm going like, oh no, man. You know, and there was definitely some like gnarly things that go down in boot camp, as you know, between drill instructors and recruits, but nothing like unsafe. Like they don't hurt you, you know, they can't. But you know, you definitely get pushed to your limits, and like you learn where those limits are, and then you get comfortable in that zone. And that's the whole point, you know. It's, you have to be cool, calm, and collected in a crazy situation.
Super gnarly situation. Yeah.
So in a way, it's probably helped in what I do now.
Yeah, right. And just like, woke up, race, whatever.
But you look back on boot camp, especially when you get out, and it's like, man, you laugh at everything. It's a blast. You know, it's really only like the first week or two, like first phase they call it, that probably sucks the most, just because you're out of your element. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, everything's just confusing. You're just getting yelled at, and like working out like 3 times a day. You're exhausted. Can't do anything right. And then things start clicking. Then you start learning, and then you make that transformation, and it's really cool, man. It's well worth it.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service.
Oh yeah, no worries.
All right. So when you were done with your time there, did you just stay here out in California?
Yeah. So I ended up staying out here because I got out of South Dakota for a reason, kind of type of deal. That was the other reason. Like, military helped me kind of like get out. I didn't want to get stuck there, because really all there is to do is go to college there and get a job, or you end up, you know, in the mines or in the oil field or something like that, which like all my buddies were doing, and they were making a ton of money, and still some of them are still like doing it, and man, they're still making bank. Like they've done really, really well for themselves. And so, but that just wasn't for me. I just didn't want to do that. And so it was a way to get out. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, you know, that kind of thought crossed my head again. It's like, well, don't go back. You got out for a reason. I do love it there. I'm glad I grew up there. And actually there's like the sickest mountain biking there now. So,
really?
It's fun to go back home and ride. Cool. But yeah, so I ended up staying out here in California, and, but getting out of the Marine Corps, man, like I didn't know what to do. Like, college wasn't for me, so I didn't want to do that. But
there's an option to stay in the service, but
Yep.
You'd had your time. And...
Yeah. So I was actually married at the time.
Okay.
And got married just like super young. And it's kind of the reason I got out, because she was like, I was just deployed all the time, you know? And so she was sick of it. And I was like, cool, like I'll get out, like, you know, be home more. And then she bounced. And I was actually like really, really good at what I did. And I loved the Marine Corps, and like probably would have stayed. And I definitely considered it. Like I had some higher ups. My first sergeant from India Company, First Sergeant Rusi, who actually lives here in Temecula now.
Yeah, cool.
And works for one of my buddies who rides, and like he rides mountain bikes as well.
It's sick.
Yeah, kind of a crazy little circle.
Yeah.
And so he was actually towards the end of his career, and he was going, he's like, dude, come with me. He's like, re-enlist. I'll take you to 29 Palms with me. I'll make sure you're like set up there. Like, and then in my head, I'm going like 29 Palms sucks.
Ooh, that's rough. Yeah, that's like
I'm
desert.
Like, I'm like
life.
not going. And then I think he finished off his career there, and then he retired. I'm like, dude, like, and then you would have just bounced, like, an a-hole, like, just left me out there all alone. And so yeah, I got out, and you know, I was looking for jobs. I couldn't find anything.
Were you looking like at any particular field, like mechanic
At
stuff,
that
or like
point,
trade stuff?
No, like, well, at that point it was anything. I couldn't find anything. Like, it was hard to find a job. You know, and
What year was this?
This was 2009.
Okay, so after the economy tanks, kind of. Sure.
Yep, exactly. So, like, I literally couldn't find anything, and I found a concrete job, and I did concrete in high school and did foundations and stuff like that. So I knew concrete well enough, at least to start another job doing it. And it was just decorative concrete, doing like concrete countertops and polishing and, you know, epoxy floors and stuff like that. But it was I think it was $10 an hour as like the warehouse guy. And so I basically just stayed in the warehouse and like organized tools. I like fixed grinders when they blew up. Like, there's one dude in house that did all the countertops for customers and stuff. So when he needed a hand, like, I helped him out. But man, it was like basically 6 days a week, because it was $10 an hour. And like, if there was a side job that the guys were doing or something like that on Saturday, Sunday, I'm like, if I could hop on that, for sure.
Yeah. Just to make ends meet, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I was busting my ass for $10 an hour. And I was just like, this sucks. Like, dude. And I'm just making nothing, like doing it. And
is it here in Temecula?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They're still around. They're actually a sick company. Like they still do. I think they mostly do like commercial stuff now, like college floors or like classroom floors and stuff like that. But yeah, they were super cool guys. But man, I was just busting my butt for, you know, nothing. But that's the job that I could get. So I took it, and I just didn't complain. I just shut my mouth and took what I could get. And then I, you know, then riding popped back in my head, and I was like, I went back home, and I got my downhill bike again. I was like, sick, I'm gonna start riding downhill. And then I was like, you know what, I could work at a bike shop for $10 an hour and not be sweating my ass off outside in 110 degree heat, you know, doing concrete. And I could work in a bike shop, air conditioned, and not physical labor for the same amount. So I found this bike shop in Hemet, and it was kind of a crap little shop, if I'm being honest. And Hemet, if you know that town, it's a pretty sketch little town.
Pretty small.
Yeah, pretty small.
We'll call it small.
Yeah, we'll call it small. And but there was two guys working there, Brian and Stephen Bafis. And
Steve Bafis? Like,
yep. Do you know him?
Oh yeah, dude. Like, met him back in the day. Yeah. Sick dirt jumper. Yeah. What up, Bafis?
Yo, what up, Bafis?
American Radness, son.
Hell yeah. I was just talking to him. I was just texting him yesterday or the day before. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome.
So anyway, Bafis is working there.
Okay.
And so I don't know who he is or anything like that. And
I didn't know he was from down here. Like,
no, he's not. He's from Idaho.
Oh,
but,
okay.
So
but he just happened to be here.
Dude, it's a whole nother story.
Okay, yeah.
Metzger brought him. Mike Metzger was doing like this tour of like bike jumps and moto and stuff like that. And so Bafis came down to be part of like the mountain bike section, where he would be the dude during the shows, like hitting the box jumps and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Metzger would be like, you know, hitting and stuff like that. So it's this big plan. And Metzger brought him down, and he was like sleeping on Metzger's couch. And then the thing just kind of fell through. And so Steven needed a job, and he got a job at this bike shop.
Okay.
And then I think it was probably 2 or 3 months later, I come along and got a job there. And I was like, oh, sick. Like, super cool dudes working for him, and like got to be real good buddies with Bafis. And then eventually the guy who's managing it was supposed to buy it, and he was super cool, Brian Tucker. And then he went back to like his marketing job in Seattle. And then Steven ended up, basically going, I think he went back to Idaho, something like that. Like just didn't want to live down here anymore. It's kind of over the SoCal deal. He went back, and then I was kind of there on my own. I was like, this sucks. Like kind of like sucks working here without those dudes,
Yeah.
Like those dudes really made it fun to work there. And so there's a new bike shop that opened in Temecula, and the old manager of the shop I was working at said, "Hey man, you should go check that shop out. It's a new shop. They might be looking for somebody to hire. It'd be, cool to work there as well." So on one of my days off, I went down there and met the manager and asked him if they're hiring. And he was kind of like, "Well, no, but maybe, yeah. Why?" Kind of like one of those deals. And I was like, I'm just at a shop now, like just not that stoked there. And you guys got a pretty sick shop here. So he's like, well, why don't you come in for kind of like an interview, like the standard bike shop mechanic deal, like put a bike in the stand, see what you can do.
Yeah.
And so ended up hiring me there for a few dollars more an hour. And
Cool.
then
Did it end up being closer too?
no, it was actually farther because I was living in Hemet, but driving to Temecula.
Oh, you were living out in Hemet then.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And so I was doing that commute, and I did it for, I forget how long, like a few months or something like that. But I wanted to move down to Temecula just to get out of Hemet and be closer, not have to commute so far and everything. So that's when I met my buddy Chappie Feeney, who's intense mechanic now.
Yeah.
And so he was still racing Supercross and like trying to do that and riding mountain bikes for training. And he was a customer at the shop, and the owner was like, "Hey, like meet Chappie. Like you guys are like similar skill level at the time." Dude's way better than me now. I'm not even trying to pretend that. And so he's like, "You guys should ride together. Like you guys all like both love mountain biking, stuff like that." And he was riding downhill for fun and then mountain biking for training. So him and I got to be buddies. And then his family got a job in North Dakota, and we're moving up there. He didn't want to go. So I was like, "Dude, let's find a place together." So we found a house to rent. His parents helped us find it, and went and looked at it one day. And I was actually helping Rich Houseman out a little bit at the time, or I had just met Rich.
Okay.
I'd been over to his house like once or twice. And I go over to this house we're supposed to rent, and it's literally down the street. I was like, dude, random. So it ended up being the best deal. And so Chappie and I rent this house. And then that's when I was helping Rich Houseman out.
Okay.
And I met him shortly before that, and he was doing the ODI Trek development team. And then Aaron was on Trek at the time and kind of helping coach the kids. Aaron made the move to Specialized, and then the ODI team, or the development team, came ODI Specialized, and it had Charlie Harrison, Jason Schroeder, and Shane Leslie on it. And then I think John Buckle was on there, one of the first ones too. And Buckle was kind of doing like the mechanic and rider type deal. And Rich was like, that's when Rich was like, "Hey man, would you mind giving us a hand? Like just come up to the house, help me find the parts, or, help me put the parts on, just help me with some builds and stuff." That turned into, "Hey, do you want to go to Sea Otter and wrench for Charlie, Jason, and Shane and stuff like that? Like, can't pay you anything, but we got a room for you. Like, and basically that's it. Like,
Go
if you can get up there, like, heck yeah, man. Like, I was pumped. So kind of credit Rich with like getting me into like the race mechanic side of things.
Yeah, totally.
And so I helped him out with the ODI Trek team. Yeah, the ODI Trek team, like the last year. Or towards the end of that, and then for the beginning of the ODI Specialized deal.
Okay.
And that was 2013. And Chappie and I are still living together then, and he was working at a glass shop, and then basically the Specialized team restructured, and they were looking for basically a whole new staff, like manager and mechanics and everything. And so Rich, kind of being the guy that does what he does, he started just plug and playing things, and he got EC in there, Eric Carter, and then they needed mechanics, and Eric was like, "I got a mechanic, John Canepa," and like Canepa was on board, and then Rich is like, "I got a guy, John Hall," and like he threw my name in the hat I didn't even know it.
Really?
Yeah, and it started as like, "Hey man," he's like, "Could you be like help me out or help Aaron out in the off season with just being like practice mechanic?" because he'd showed up to A1 ride days or something like that with a broken spoke, and the bike shop had to fix it or whatever. And he just didn't know it was broken. Like, and Rich is like, dude, I can't have Aaron Gwin showing up to A1 ride days like with a broken wheel. Like, that, like, he needs some help in the off season. And JC was helping him out at the time, Sam Hill's mechanic, in 2013. But I think JC just lived too far away to like be
practical.
Yeah, be practical to work on his bikes every day or every week, you know. And so I was like, heck, dude, heck yes, like I'll do that. And that actually just never ended up needing anything. So I didn't even like work on his bikes in the off season.
Really?
Yeah.
And then, were you looking at this like, hey, maybe there's a future in this, or were you just psyched to do stuff? Like
pretty much just psyched to do stuff. And it was funny because it was kind of like one of those points in my life where I was like, man, what am I going to do? Like, I don't want to, like, I did a little bit of college, just because even though college wasn't for me, like I had to, because I got money from the GI Bill to live every month.
Yep.
And like, I couldn't have lived on $10 an hour in Southern California. Like, and I was living with a friend. They were renting a room for me, or let me rent their room for like $400 or $500 a month. So that was a humongous help. Like I couldn't have done it without that.
Right.
And then, so I was doing the GI Bill because it was like extra like $2,000 a month, but I was using every penny of it to live, like buy food, like, you know, gas to make the commute and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, working at the new bike shop and everything. And my buddy, John Hornbeck, was working there building bikes, and he was trying to be like a pro road racer. And he's on like a domestic team, trying to go to like the world tour, teams and stuff like that. And him and I were just in the back, you know, shooting the crap like you do in the bike shop, building bikes. And he like nonchalantly goes like, why don't you go like wrench for Aaron Gwin or something? And I was like, dude, are you kidding me? I'm like, that's a pipe dream for one. There's 1,000 dudes in line to do that. Like, and plus he has JC, like Sam Hill's mechanic. Like, are you kidding? He's not going to give that up. Like, are you kidding? Like, that guy's a legend. And like, and even if JC did move out of the picture, like there's 1,000 dudes lined up that are like far above me. And like, I'm not even on that kind of radar. And so it just kind of like laughed and sloughed it off. Like, this is like 6 months later, you know, or a few months later, Rich asked me to do the practice mechanic thing. And I was like, cool. That kind of like, I never got to work on his bikes, but like met Aaron a few times and knew him at that point. And then it was would have been the end of 2013. And, where like the specialized team was restructuring, they needed the staff and stuff, and all the stuff was going on behind the scenes. I didn't know it. And Rich was like, hey, can you come out to Fontana and just help Aaron out there? To one of those races. I'm like, heck yes, I'm stoked at this point. The ODI specialized kids, the development team, Charlie, Jason, and those guys, they were going to be out there. So I was out there to help them. Okay. Aaron was out there like practicing and riding, so I was going to help him if he needed anything. And then that all went really well, helped him out. And then there's a bootleg race the following weekend. Like I said, like we always go to that race.
Yep.
And so he's like, hey, you want to go to bootleg with me next weekend? Charlie and I are going.
Aaron said this.
Aaron said this. He's like, we could use your help out there. It'd be sick. I was like, yeah, but let me ask my boss if I can get the days off. Cause like, dude, to get a Saturday off at a bike shop is nearly impossible, let alone like a full weekend, and especially 2 in a row. Yeah. Like that's unheard of. And so of course my boss was like, no. Like, I'm like, dude, Aaron Gwin wants me to go help him like, dude, this is huge. And he's like, no. And he admitted to me later, he's like, dude, I just knew. Like, he's like, you're too good of a mechanic. Like, I knew that, like, Aaron would try to steal you. Yeah. Kind of jokingly. So he eventually lets me go, and we go to bootleg. And while I'm out there, Rich is texting me, and he's like, hey, like, just kind of, like, do, like, race mechanic things with Aaron. Like, you know, check his tire pressure every run, you know, do bolt checks, like, wipe his bike down and stuff like that, and just kind of see how things go. And, like, that was the point where I'm like, I feel like you're doing something behind the scenes.
Yeah, like hinting at stuff.
Yeah. And he straight up just texted me. He's like, I'm working on something behind the scenes. Like, I can't tell you anything right now, but like, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Cool. So,
did Aaron know this was going on? Do you have any idea?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, he had to have. Yeah, he's probably like putting me through the paces.
Yep.
Just to kind of see.
Yeah. And, so you grabbing his bike and checking pressures and wiping it down. He wasn't like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that's what he asked me to come out there and do. Like, take care of him and Charlie and stuff like that. And so I actually ended up finding one of the bolt checks was like one one main pivot bolt was like a full turn loose or something
Whoa,
like
really?
that. And I
Nice.
was like, whoa. He's like, dude, good catch.
Especially a bootleg, yeah.
Exactly. And so we get through that weekend. I think him and Charlie both won. And we drove back and then back to Aaron's house. My truck was parked there. We're just hanging out in his kitchen, like just kind of shooting the crap. And he just casually at one point, he was like, yeah, so it was like good weekend, like stoked. Thanks for all the help, man. I was like, yeah, dude, no worries. He's like, so you want to go to World Cups with me this year? And I just went, yep. Like didn't even hesitate. I was just like, yeah, I do. He's like, sick. This is Sunday night or something like that. He's like, I'll call Specialized tomorrow and tell him I found my dude or whatever. And like on the way home, Rich texted me. He's like, how'd the weekend go? I was like, dude, Aaron just asked me to be his World Cup mechanic.
Yeah.
Like that was epic.
Like, and, yeah, it went pretty good.
Yeah. So, but I was going to school full time. I was working full time, and I was like having to do that just to like make ends meet. And I tried to quit school so many times, and like my mom always convinced me to stay. She's like, no, just stick to it. Yeah. Like stay, like it'll be over before you know it. And I always did. So I called her. I was like, I'm gonna quit school. And if she went like straight into her deal, like no, like just no, you're almost done. Like I only have like a year and a half left or something like that. And I told her what kind of like the job opportunity that I got. And she's like, oh, so you can always go back to school. Like you have to take that opportunity.
Awesome.
Like heck,
she understood.
Yeah, no, totally. She's always been like fully supportive of it. So, so yeah, I basically kind of once everything, I couldn't obviously quit my job until like I had a contract and everything like that. So it took a week or two to get a call from the marketing director. I think at the time it was Jeff Rogers. And he called me on the phone, is basically like did a quick little phone interview. And he's like, you're basically the first dude we've ever hired over the phone without ever meeting. So
wow.
Next thing I guess is like, we'll get you a plane ticket and fly up here and sign your contract. Like, and then that was basically the first team camp we did to Specialized.
Okay, cool.
Flew up there and signed my contract. And
you know, without specifics, like this was going to give you enough money to make ends meet.
Basically, like I didn't know what mechanics got paid.
Yeah.
Or even how really. And so that's kind of where like EC and John Canepa came in and like helped me out a lot and like kind of let me know and filled me in like how things work and stuff like that. And so I mean, it was an opportunity of a lifetime that I couldn't turn down. But at the same time, I mean, if it was way less than I was making, like, dude, that wasn't going to make sense.
Yeah, totally.
And so in my head, I was just like, I just asked for basically exactly what I was making with the GI Bill and my working at the bike shop. And because my GI Bill, the timing was perfect because my GI Bill just ended. So I wasn't going to get any more money from that. And so I basically got out of college debt free and like kind of like got a few dollars to live on throughout it. And like 3/4 of a degree. Yeah. And so yeah, I basically just got the same exact amount as I was getting paid. And then obviously, you know, in my head, I worked it out as like I got my expenses paid as well, you know, hotels, food, and all that stuff while I travel. I'm like, dude, you can't beat that. It's a heck of a deal. So, so yeah, as soon as I knew I had the job, I put my 2 weeks in and I quit school. And I think it was, by this time, it was pretty late in the game. Like my first World Cup was in April, and I want to say I signed my contract in like March or something like that.
Whoa, yeah, that is close.
Yeah, something, or maybe end of February. I don't remember exactly. But it was right around a month before the first World Cup where everything was kind of like finalized. I'm like, cool, we're going racing.
Yeah.
And so we showed up for team camp and like, you know, get the tour Specialized, meet everybody. Here's the frames, like here's the parts. And basically like everything had been ordered by JC and the previous staff for this year. So like, here's all the parts for a year. Like they've already been ordered. I'm like, cool. And that was, we were going to South Africa with the first 275 bike Specialized ever did. Yeah. And it was an Enduro Evo. And so I opened the box of rims to start building wheels, and they're all 26 inch. I've got 3 boxes stacked like 6 feet tall of 26 inch rims. And I'm like, oh no. And so I'm like, well, what do I do? Yeah. And I forget who I asked for, like email DT Swiss, like tell them what happened or tell them we need 275 rims. I was like, cool. Get the dude's email, like, hey, I'm John, like introduce myself. And I get this email back like what are you talking about? You need 275. It's a month before the first World Cup. These orders are supposed to be done in October. And I was like, oh no, like, please don't yell at me. Like,
yeah, right. Like, I'm new here.
Like, I literally, like, I just signed a contract like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know any of this. And he's like, oh, okay. And so they were actually like super cool. And like,
Nice.
kind of like we worked through it. They obviously, like, they didn't have, he's like, well, basically, like, we don't have anything for you.
I was going to say, did they have it?
Yeah, he's like, we don't have anything. Like here's how things work. Like, things need to be ordered at this time so we can manufacture it, and have it to you guys in time for these things. And I'm like, okay, it makes sense. He's like, so we're just gonna have to, we're gonna have to find a solution, and then get through these first couple rounds, and then we can get you rims. And so we ended up having to run specialized rims, like Roval wheels, but even they had like very minimal because they were just developing them.
Yeah.
And it was like going up to like the wheel dude's desk, and he had like 4 or 5 rims sitting there, and he's like, you can have these, like, just scrounging like wheels. I think we went to the first race. Now we're looking back. I was talking about somebody with this the other day, and like looking at how we go to races now and how well prepared we are.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel stressed if I don't feel like we're that prepared. I always just think about this race. I'm like, dude, we went racing in 2014 with so much less, with 3 riders. We had Aaron Gwin, Troy Brosnan, and Mitch Ropolato. Yeah. And I think our saving grace was Mitch was trying to race the 29er Enduro, trail bike.
So we didn't need the wheels.
So he didn't need like the 275 wheels, and he had like his own 29 wheels from Roval, or I can't remember what he was running. And and so I want to say we had like 6 wheel sets, or 6 sets between Aaron and Troy.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I can't remember. It was basically like Aaron and Troy each had a set on the bike, and I think 1 spare set, maybe 2. Going into, luckily it was South Africa and Australia.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. They weren't too brutal.
They weren't like wheel crushing tracks.
Yeah.
So we were confident that we were okay. Like, we had plenty of product. And so yeah, we went racing with that kind of stuff. But I look back like what we went racing with, and I'm like, dude. And even that enduro, like, we were thinking it was an enduro Evo, so it was like a 180 mil travel bike, I think. Mm-hmm. First 275 bike Specialized did. They were like very adamant about keeping it quiet to the public and stuff. So I mean, they were Specialized branded tires, but we still had to black out logos on them because it had 275 written on there. Yeah. And so we're like blacking out our own logos and stuff just to keep things like as low key as possible.
Yeah. Was stuff like that a shock to you, that you would have to kind of jump through like hoops like this? You're like, hey, we're a World Cup team, like, let us do our stuff.
Yeah, that part of it was, it was crazy, but like knowing what I know now and how things work, it's not a shock. Like, it all makes complete sense. Okay. But that's why, from the public's perspective, and in mine at the time was, I mean, I would consider I was the public's perspective.
Green, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You would think like you just walk into this room of unlimited parts, and like you could build whatever you want, whenever you want, however many of them you want. Yeah. Like, it's just not true. Like, these things have to be, planned for and allocated for months in advance. Like I said, when the off season hits for us, we kind of hit the ground running. We started ordering parts for the following year, because it's not like manufacturers can just pull from their stock. Like, that's stock that they have set aside to sell to bike shops, to consumers, and everything like that. So you can't take that away from them, that you're basically cutting their bottom dollar out there. And so they plan it so far in advance so that, they build their sponsorship product and, in the factories in the fall and stuff, so that you can have it early year. Right. You got to take into account like Chinese New Year, where like the entire, culture shuts down for weeks at a time, right, or however long it is. So it's like, you've got to get your stuff ordered and into the like the production cycle. Because there's a cycle. Like, you can't just be like, oh, make me 50 of these. Yeah. Like, there's people ahead of you that have put their orders in, they're paying for it. And I mean, the brands are paying for it too, but it's still like, you don't get to just jump in line at the burrito shop because you're the hungriest. Right. Like, like, you still got to wait in line. Yeah. So like, you got to get in line into your production cycle. And if there's 5 manufacturers in front of you making their wheels, and like, then you get in, then it takes time to make the wheels. And if your production cycle lands anywhere near the Chinese New Year before or during, like it's not getting made.
Right.
And then you're getting into crunch time to go racing and get everything built, you know, for photo shoots and, you know, rider cards and autograph cards being made. You can't have last year's stuff on them. And like, you know, it's a whole big deal.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. Did you guys win that first race together?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause Aaron mentioned that Lord last year was the first race that you guys didn't win together, right?
Yep.
And that because of the weather.
Yeah, we got a little deal we call first race, first place.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2014 South Africa, we won. We won, and then what was 2015? I don't remember that first round. But we won that one, and then 2016 we won, which was the first year at Lord's, and then last year was the weather-affected one, and then won this round in Croatia. So aside from that one crazy weather race in Lord's, first race, first place, it's quite the record, I think.
Sick history.
Yeah.
Let's kind of – what was the first season like? Like after, you know, you get – through the challenges of product being messed up, how'd the rest of the season go? Like, did you guys find a groove? Did it seem to work okay?
Yeah, I think it went great. I mean, as a team, we worked pretty well. But I mean, it was my first year. Like I didn't know how things worked or supposed to work, or if it was going well or if it wasn't. Like I was so, I guess, ignorant to the fact or blind to the fact of how things actually worked that I didn't know whether,
even though like races were being won, were you still kind of like, is it good?
That's the other funny story about South Africa. When he won, we were in the shuttle coming down, and we found out, and I think Brendan's mechanic Ben got it over the radio because our radios weren't working or were out of touch, and he told me that. Yeah, he told me Aaron won. I was like, sick, he won. And like Doug Hatfield was in there, Dougie Fresh and Jason Marsh and then John Kniepen, and everybody's like, dude, congrats, like good job. I was like, sweet, yeah, thanks. Like it's Aaron Gwin, he's supposed to win, right? Like I mean, it was a big deal, but like I didn't understand how big of a deal that really was. And so I was like, yeah, sweet. Everybody kept coming over like, dude, congrats. And like all these photographers want to come over and get pictures of the bike and, you know, interviews with Aaron. I'm like, it's just normal. Like this is what happens. This is what World Cups are like, you know? And then as the season went on, we didn't win another race. That was the only race we won that year. And I think we ended up second overall. And like that was a battle, like hard fought battle. Looking back on it now, I'm like, and then toward every race, I started to realize how hard wins are to come by and how, you know, like how much work goes into those and what has to happen right for that to happen. Okay. And so it was like a really good, you know, learning experience and learning year. And then with the help of like John Kniepen, like, again, I didn't know what to do, or like, I've never been to any of these venues. Everywhere is a first time for me. Kniepen had been to a few of them, and same with EC. And so, you know, those guys really kind of like, John Kniepen basically helped me like know the etiquette in the pits, you know, how to approach a sponsor. You know, we're sponsored by SRAM at the time. Like, this is how we go to SRAM and ask for a part if we need it. Okay. You know, and like going around and introduced me to everybody at all the pits and different mechanics. And he's like, he's like, you really have to grease all these wheels. Everybody has to get along. Like, you can't be an a-hole here, like, cause it's such a small community, and like, you're going to have to ask somebody for help one day. And like, if you're an a-hole to somebody, like, they're not going to help you. Yeah. And so,
it's not just like, Aaron Gwin's mechanics, SRAM, give me a bunch of derailers.
Exactly. No, you can't do that, man. And so, you know, I don't think I'm an a-hole anyways, but like it was still cool to like go around and like get to meet everybody. And now all the other mechanics and teams are like friends of mine, and I love going to races just specifically to like, I usually make a loop in the morning when I get to the pits just to say what up. Like, you know, it's like, I'm gonna go test ride the bike, but that, you know, it really means like go test ride the bike, and then on your way back, like I stop at Canyon and talk to Troy Brosnan's mechanic, Aaron Pelletari, and then like stop and talk to Nigel Reeve, and then it's like stop and talk to these dudes and those dudes and Marshy over at Santa Cruz and see what he's up to. Like, and so, man, it's fun. Like, and I know that I could probably rely on any of those dudes if I ever needed anything. Like if I needed a tire or I don't know, any kind of part or something like that, like something crazy, like help,
Mm-hmm.
that same like at the top of, the top of the track when you go up there for quality runs or race runs or stuff like that. Like I had Aaron's back number fall off one time because the double-sided tape wasn't that like good a quality, and like I didn't have any duct tape. Like I didn't have any tape on me at all. And I was like, I'm just running around frantically. Like, does anybody have any duct tape? I'm like, I think Brendan's mechanic Ben, I think, was like, yo, got a roll right here. Like, everybody just like wants to help out. And,
Yeah, which is sick because I've got that written down. Like I've heard of those stories. It kind of seems like, mechanics all generally talk that way, but it really is that way. It's not like,
For sure.
we'll put this front on. And
yeah.
No.
Was
Was that surprising to you?
At first, yeah. But like, as the years went on and stuff like that, and you start to become friends with all these guys, it's like, your friends first, really.
Yeah. You see why it's all, all good.
And it's, like I said, it's such a small community anyways. I think Ben Arnott and I, the other mechanic on the team, or Nico's mechanic, figured it out one time. There's got to be right around probably 30 World Cup mechanics on the circuit, let's call it 50, like even if there's 50.
Okay.
That's 50 people that have this job in the entire world, on the World Cups, downhill World Cup circuit. Like that's a really small community within that amount of people.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we all try to, help each other out, take care of each other. Most everybody's dialed, and those times you have to call on somebody is few and far between. I mean, I can count on one hand the amount of times it's happened in 5 years.
Yep.
But it does happen, so maybe if you're not at a World Cup or somebody's not at their full rig or something like that, they didn't bring everything with them, like may need to help them out with a bolt or a part, or, I've had other mechanics come over and need a set of bars, because they're, they had spares, but they weren't long enough. They were 780s and they needed 800s. And it's like, yep, sweet. Like I've got set spare, like, and it's all just kind of, ebb and flow. Like you give stuff out, and like, then you can come back and ask for something later, and stuff like that. So it all works really well. We get along good.
Yeah. That's sick. Are you doing good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All good.
What's like a general race weekend routine for you? And kind of talk about maybe if you look back as to how you did it the first year or two to what you do now, like what are some of the differences?
Yeah, I mean, a general race routine during the week is flying in on Monday or Tuesday, setting the truck up as soon as you get there. It's usually on a Wednesday. And then it depends if it's a triple or double or triple event, basically if there's cross country race as well, or if it's just a downhill. But if it's just a downhill race, we'll set the truck up on Wednesday, track walk on Thursday.
Mm-hmm. And do you go up for track walk? Or
Yep.
do you, okay.
Yeah, I usually always try to, especially if it's a track I haven't been to. And it's not necessarily, Aaron doesn't need my help during track walk. I'm not sitting there pointing lines out to him. He's pretty good at doing that himself. He doesn't need my help there. It's just a sense of I want to get an idea of the track.
Yeah. And if he's giving you feedback on sections, you can at least understand what they look like, if nothing else. Yeah,
he can come down and say, that section after the big rock on the left, where you make the left, right, and then that straight section afterwards, like right in there, the bike is doing this, or right in there is where I flatted, things like that. So I can it's just reference points for me. And then, you can look at it and kind of put things in your brain bank to, if it rains, what's the soil look like? What's the track condition going to turn to? So that if it rains, do we keep dries on? Do we go to a mid spike? Is it going to be a full spike? That kind of stuff. Okay. So that's really all the track walk does for me, or the reasons I go. And then if it's a track we've been to like every year since I've been doing this, like Leogang or something like that, I usually don't need to walk Leogang anymore. Got a pretty good idea of it, unless they've changed something drastically. Last year they changed quite a bit, so it was good to walk it again. If I don't have a ton of work to do at the truck or on the bike, I'll go on the track walk.
Okay.
It's fun to go up there for that. Yep. But if I've got a ton of work to do and it's a track like Leogang and I've been there 5 times, then I'll stay at the truck and keep working on the bike, or getting the suspension rebuilt or something like that. Okay. So But yeah, so we'll show up, build the tent up on Wednesday, track walk Thursday, practice all day Friday, and then go through the full practice routine. And then
is there a routine? Is it super regimented? Like Aaron's
really.
always going to do 3 runs and you're going to do such and such?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
No. He's usually late for practice.
Yeah.
On purpose.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. They're like,
yeah.
Aaron comes down last and then we barely get him or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So he's gotten pretty good about it lately. He wasn't late for Croatia though. He was pretty early on time actually for Croatia. So that was cool. But so yeah, it's a long day. So he doesn't need to do a ton of runs.
Yeah.
If it's a new track, like Croatia, maybe that's why he's there early and wants to get,
make sure stuff's figured out.
Yeah, make sure stuff's figured out. But other times, you just, it's almost better to save yourself. So you don't do a ton of runs, or it's like practice starts at 12. He might show up at 12:15. He's not like super late, but and then he gets dressed and stuff and be on track by 1. Okay. But you have till 5:30,
right?
Worth of practice. So it's not like he's short on time.
Sure. Does time training matter much to him? It seems like it's. I want to say like I don't remember results where it almost seems like he sort of doesn't care.
Yeah. Sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't.
Okay.
It's usually top to bottom. It's like, it's not real important to have the fastest time training. He just might have, he knows where all the splits are, and he knows sections that he knows he's fast in, and he has sections that he's, maybe he has 2 different lines that he wants to try or something like that. And he'll try them both in this one sector. And then he'll just look at split times.
Okay.
So he, sometimes it's full run. Sometimes it's like he uses it. And other times he's like, man, like, I don't need to know how fast I am. Like, he just knows that he's okay.
Yep.
So yeah, sometimes he uses it like that and sometimes not. So that's why time training times come out and it's kind of like,
Yep.
Yeah. And then qualifying Saturday, just wake up. It's usually 2 runs, you really only have enough time for 2 runs of practice and then go up for qualifying.
Okay.
And then race day's pretty much the same thing. 2 runs and then your race run's just usually a bit later.
Is qualifying important? Like I know there's points on the line. I know it gets your head in the right space, but is it taken as seriously as race day almost?
For sure.
Yeah.
I would say qualifying is taken as serious as race day. Main reason being, like you said, there's points on the line. And when you're fighting for a championship, like every single point matters. Yeah. So yeah, you want to maximize as many as you can. But race day seems to always be a little bit faster still. It's so
gnarly the times they put down, like especially when conditions are consistent. It's like, where'd that 2 seconds come from or whatever?
It's pretty
or more.
Crazy. Yeah, I think it comes from, they throw down a run in qualifying, and it may be 100% run for a lot of guys. Some guys might be in 90 to 95% run, or it could have just been 100% run and they made a couple mistakes, but they know where they made the mistakes and how much those mistakes are worth. That's usually what I think Aaron does. I think he knows when he comes down after a qualifying run and sees where he lands, whether it's 3rd or 1st, he knows how much time he's left up on whether it's like that's a heater run, like my time's gonna be pretty close to that, and man, like that dude's good. Like he's come down after a qualifying run and seen his time and gone, I have 2.5 seconds in there, like, and then the next day he goes 2.5 seconds faster.
Well, that's the thing. Like, and it was kind of the same with that tire pressure story. For maybe if there's any listeners that didn't hear, but I think it was at the Flat Tire Defender camp. But you said there was an instance where Aaron knew his pressure was off by 0.5 pound, right? His tire pressure. Yeah. And you checked and it was. And, online, like, whoa, whatever, that doesn't happen. But he seems like he has this insane ability to break down the technique and the technical aspects. And so he can do that he knows the time he's on or off.
Yep, exactly. And he's just so in tune with things. He takes his job serious. It's riding and racing bikes and it's fun and we keep it light, but at the same time, he's good at what he does for a reason.
Do you think he has an ability that others don't have that way?
I don't know. I think he's just good. Like he's just smart. I don't think it's something that he has that nobody else has. He just works really hard at his racing craft and that's what he enjoys doing. You know, he enjoys being right about that. You know, that's like comes down and he goes, you know, I check tire pressure every run, and it's like sometimes before I can even get over there, he's like, can you check tire pressure? Like he wants to know. And so, you know, I'll get over there and I'll check it. And I'll be like, it's a pound low. And he goes, thought it felt soft. Like he knows.
Yep.
And so in the beginning, like I've told him a few times, I'm like, in the beginning, man, like I'd get frustrated. I'd be like, you don't know. Like I was like everybody else. I'm like, you don't feel 1 PSI. You don't feel that. And then, I mean, I was proven wrong every single time. I'm like, okay, like he does. Like even if it sounds ridiculous, like I just believe him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we have that trust level.
Okay.
That if he says something, like if he says there's a noise coming from the bike, like even if I can't find it, if I don't hear it, like there's a noise. Like I don't care if I can't hear it. If he says there's a noise somewhere coming from the front of the bike, like there's a noise coming from the front of the bike, and I got to find it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I've started to realize that it's still important for me to ride downhill. I'm like, even if I'm not good and not fast or whatever, there's certain things that you only feel while you're riding, and you can try to relay that feedback to people. And I mean, I've been guilty of it myself. He's come down and, you know, given me some sort of feedback, and I'm like, okay, like noted. And I try to solve the problem, and it's like, nope, didn't work. And I'm like, oh, like, dude, I've done everything. Like, there's not like I've done everything I could to fix it. Like, you're going to have to start dealing with it. And it's like, he won't accept that, you know, as like most racers won't. It's like, no, like we've got to get it worked out. Like this is, I can feel it. And then the best example of that, I was up in Big Bear riding with him, and I felt the same issue about that feedback he had given me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like that is really annoying. Like you do want that fixed immediately. Like you don't want to have to just deal with it. Right. You know, and so it's still important.
Your head's going to be in a different space. Like,
so it's still important to like keep riding bikes and to feel those things that they feel, because it's one thing to understand it. It's a whole nother thing to feel it yourself. Yeah. And then you realize that, okay, like once, you know, these guys get up to the speeds they're going and this amplifies, like that affects, you know, how you feel in a race run or how fast you can go. Yeah.
How do you deal with like disappointing results, whether it's qualifying or race or anything? Like, do you have to be like reassuring to Aaron? Is there a relationship like that? Or are you just kind of like, give me the bike and I'll deal with it?
No. You know, with disappointing results, like been pretty fortunate. There haven't been many with him. So, but I mean, there have been a few, but I mean, I think I've learned, along with a lot of other people on the team, have learned from him more how to deal with those like disappointing results. You know, you can be frustrated or something like that, but I don't know, it's one of those deals where it's over, you know, it's done. There's kind of no sense crying over spilt milk kind of like mindset, where you can take it, you can analyze it, you can figure out what you can do better next time or how to fix it if there was an issue. But then you just move on. Like there's no sense in sulking over it. There's no sense in like just being bummed out. And like, I tend to get that way. Like I'll just legitimately be bummed, more probably for him. I'm like, geez, dang it. Like, like, you know, when you're in a championship hunt and you get a flat tire, it's like, you're like, oh, like, man, it's just gut wrenching. And it's probably like Switzerland last year is probably the best example. Like, I can honestly say that I was a poor sport about that. Like I was so bummed, and like I took it almost personally that he got a flat. Yeah. But like there's just the tire, the sidewall of the tire just sliced. Like I could fit my pinky through it. There's nothing like he didn't do that wrong. Like I didn't do that. Like Onza didn't do that. Like nobody did that. Like that's just one of those things that happened, you know, like that's racing. It's one of those things, you know, just those things happen. But I was so bummed about it afterwards. Like I didn't want to talk to anybody. And like, he was more so like, dude, it's fine. Like, it's all right. Like, yeah, that sucked. You know, yeah, that was unfortunate. Like could have had a win there, but it happened. Like can't change it. So dude, like head up, let's go. It's just like,
it's so matter of fact about it.
Yeah. Well, you have to be.
Yeah.
Like you really have to be. Like you just have to put put it aside and move on and go try to make up for it at the next race. Not make up for it, but just do what you're meant to do at the next race.
Yeah.
And, I think he said it a bunch, but if you just do what you legitimately or honestly your best, then wherever the cards fall, like, he's happy. So as long as he did everything he could do and did his best, and whether that's first or fifth or third or 10th, like, okay, like, not going to be like happy with a 10th, but that's everything I had.
That's what happened.
I did everything right, and that's where the cards fell. So you take that and you move on. And so you try to keep that mindset. I do everything I do, or I do everything I can do right, and everything that's within my power and in my control. Like, I can just work on the things that I can control. I can't control a half-inch slice in the sidewall of a tire.
Right.
So it's like there's no sense in getting bummed about it. And that was kind of like one of the things I learned and like took away from that race.
Okay.
One of the bigger things, like, hey man, like, just, you got to do everything you do the best you can do it. And if you do that, then whatever the results are, like, you can be stoked with that. You can be happy with yourself.
Yep.
And as you improve, like, everything else improves. So
let's talk about some of those things you can't control, like the chain falling off in Leo Gang and then the weather at Mount St. Anne. What do you think? Like, kind of talk us through those. I assume you get to you're watching those races, right?
Only recently have we been able to.
Did you get to watch Leo Gang and like learn that his chain fell off early?
Well, I did actually, but that was only due to Marshy having his phone at the top, and he had data in Austria, so he had the race on his phone.
So walk us through that experience for you, and then also Mount St. Anne. Like, does it surprise you when he wins stuff like that? Like, under those circumstances?
Yes and no. You're surprised at the win, but at the same time, I'm not, because I know exactly what he's capable of.
Yeah. Did you think Leo Gang was possible without a chain? Like, when you heard the chain pop, you're just like,
not right away. Okay. No. So that chain snapped right out of the gate, like second crank. And, I heard it. And there's been other mechanics that have heard that noise too. And it's just like your heart, drops.
Because you're up there.
Yeah. And I think he qualified. Yeah, he qualified first, so he's the last to go, last person up there. Like, it's so quiet, and you just hear this boom, and like, oh. Yeah. I think I had a water bottle in my hand, and again, like, dude, just like threw the water bottle against the fence, like, frick, and walked over, and it was two Santa Cruz mechanics, Marshy and Dougie, and they were kind of like packing up their stuff, and Marshy had it going on his phone, and Connor Fearon had just gone into the hot seat.
Okay.
He's like, he was stoked. He's like, dude, Connor just went into the hot seat. I'm like, Aaron broke his chain. Like, didn't he? Like, I don't think I even heard him. Yeah. Like, I was just like, Aaron broke his chain. He's like, what? I'm like, snapped right out of the gate. He went, oh no. I was like, yeah. And he's like, it's going to be okay. I'm like, dude, it's not going to be okay. Like, how can you say that? Like, chain snapped. You can't win a race.
Yeah, especially. It's like, Leo Gang's so flat.
And I think Marshy literally was just like, shut up. Like,
really?
It's fine. Like, don't worry about it, man. And like, he had brought some wine up and in a water bottle or something like that. And he's like, here, drink this. And I thought I just took a drink. I was like, oh,
it's not water.
That's not water. And so there was a bit of a delay. So Aaron came up on the screen, and he's like, let's see if we can watch it and see what happens. And so you see the chain pop, and you see him look down. And like, when that happened and I was still in the start gate, he was still close enough. I just wanted to be like, just go. And I'm like, he knows. Yeah. Like, dude knows what to do. And so we're watching it, and he's going down. You can still see it, and I'm just going like, I just hope it doesn't get tangled in the spokes and like just bring him to a stop. Like, that would for sure be sudden death. And you can see it finally. You can't see it fall off, but you see it eventually does. Right. And so I was like, well, at least it's not out of there, and he's still rolling. We can salvage some sort of points. And what was it? I knew, so there's like the two wooden wall rides in Leo Gang, like that section. Right. Yeah. So from there on, he's so fast. Like, I don't know what he does, but man, he's fast in that sector. And so I knew that there was a split just before that. And if he was in touch there, like within a second, maybe second and a half, like he could possibly pull it off if everything went perfect from that point. and he crossed that split, and I want to say he was 0.8 or 0.4, like I can't remember, down, but he was within touch. And I looked at Marshy or Jay and Dougie, and I went, if everything goes fine, like he could pull this off. And like he hit it and going down, and you can see him just tucking the whole way.
Yeah,
like
right.
I'm like, oh, you can see him like pumping and pushing, and I'm like, just go, like get it. And yeah, across the line in the lead, and you could tell like he didn't believe it, and nobody knew down below. Like nobody knew at the race, nobody knew down below. The Rob Warner, like the announcers knew.
Yeah.
And like the people on TV knew, but everybody at the race and in that finish corral, nobody knew that chain popped.
No way.
They knew maybe something happened because you could see him look down.
Yeah. And he wasn't really pedaling much, obviously.
And he wasn't pedaling much. And Troy, I think you could hear Troy on the live feed, like, hey, like, Aaron looked at him and said, my chain snapped. And he goes, what? Where? And he goes, right out of the gate. And you can hear Troy go, F off, like, right on live TV. Yeah. I was like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and I forget who it was. One of the photographers, he shoots for Specialized. His name's Sebastian.
Yeah, Chic.
Yep. Chic. And so he took a picture of the cranks and the sprocket, no chain.
Yeah.
He didn't even know what he shot. He just just shot it. Like that was just a shot he was getting for SRAM.
Yeah.
And of the cranks, and there was no chain on it. And like he didn't even know it until like he was going through his pictures later. Like it was crazy. Like he didn't even know. Yeah.
On that one, when it first popped, did you ever feel like there was responsibility on you for that?
100%.
Okay, yeah.
100%. Yeah, like weight of the world's on your shoulders. Like that's, as a mechanic, that's your full responsibility.
Yeah.
Like that bike has to be perfect. Settings aside, that can be, rider and mechanic can work on settings together, or just rider can figure those out. But so if those aren't, you can't put any blame on that kind of stuff. But like as far as the mechanical function of the bike, like that's your sole responsibility.
Yeah.
And when that chain snapped, like I was like, I'm fired. Like that's it. Like for sure. Like I'm done. Like that's a career-ending move in my head. Like it's first year, and I don't know these things. Or that was 15, I think. But anyways,
did you guys ever talk about how the bike worked without the chain? Like if there was an advantage or anything like that? I know online a bunch of people talked like the suspension works so much better without the chain.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of bikes that work. Suspension, lots of suspension designs that work better without a chain. If there's chain growth in any suspension design, like obviously then there's
it's going to tug on it.
It's going to tug on it a little bit. So, but we didn't really talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
He did mention like why like bike felt different, definitely without that chain on there. But
it's just like
it was just like
not messing around with it or trying to figure something random out. Okay.
No.
Yep. All right, then quickly just talk about mounting in and the weather and all that. Like,
sure,
was mentally where
that was
whether or not you showed Aaron, were you just kind of like, whatever? Like had written off the race, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I wrote it off, but it definitely. I mean, like rain moved in, and I was prepping the bike for race run and packing all my bike, trainer bike stuff, and to get up. And I remember leaving the pits and it's just pouring. Like I was soaked the second I left the pits. And
had you thought about tire choice by then, or were you just like, dries are on, we're just running it?
I had the spare set of wheels I took up was like, Aaron basically was like, we'll make the decision at the top.
Okay, so you took both.
Yep. Yeah, so, and which is usually the case. If there's any chance of weather, or if there is weather like that, I always take whatever the second option is to the top with me. And so, on the way up, I left the pits and I was immediately like soaked to the bone. And so at that point, I was like, just embrace it. At this point, like have fun with it. Like it's not like it's kind of out of your control. And I remember getting into the gondola and going up by myself ahead of Aaron. And I just remember thinking back to Stevie Smith's run in 2013. I was like, that dude was the last one down the hill in similar conditions, and he won here. I'm like, Aaron can win here. And so I just had like this kind of calm. I was like, well, he can win, but it's not like a pressure to win. And so it's just like this real like calm feeling. I was like, well, it's kind of whatever happens. Go out there and do the best you can do, and that's all you can do. And got to the top, set up, found like a nice little like indoor area for him to warm up and dry and stuff. And Red Bull came over and did like a little interview with him, and he kind of said the same thing, like we'll just kind of see how this goes. Like, go out there, do the best we can in a championship hunt. Like, gotta get
points.
Yeah, points is points. And we got off the warm up bike, got all the stuff on, go over to the start gate, and like it's literally like a waterfall coming off of that Montana start hut.
Yep.
And it's a tin roof, so it's so loud inside of there, just like. And they had a wall set up this year or last year, like, so you couldn't see out the start hut as a rider. Like, you stay behind it until like you like go around the wall. So it's like this nice background, probably for TV purposes. And so you didn't really see it, but go around the wall and pull into the start gate. And Aaron just looks at me and goes, "This is going to be fun," because it was just like bucketing down.
Yeah.
I mean, like literally like a waterfall. And so, I mean, you can get his count from it from quite a few other interviews. Like, since he left that gate, like, I mean, he just literally rode through a waterfall, like soaked to the bone, just immediately. And I saw him hit the first corner and just like splash up a bit of mud. And I was like, whoa, like, don't slide out in the first corner.
Yeah,
like,
right.
He's done it before. And so Red Bull has TVs up there now, or like a small TV up at the start hut now. So I walked around, and a bunch of the other mechanics were, probably didn't want to go down in the wet. We're trying to stay dry longer. So there was probably like 10 of us up there still. And we all watched it there together. And I think we were all kind of on edge, like, whoa, oh, like every time he'd do something, like when he got hung up in the rocks right there, everybody's like, no.
Like, you're on it. Don't do it.
Yeah. And so, he pulled it off, man. It was crazy, man. Still pulling the inside lines that he was running. And it's kind of one of those tracks, though, that it's not that bad in the wet.
Yeah, that's what everyone said. Like, it's still pretty grippy.
There's still quite a bit of grip. There's a lot of the dirt and the mud kind of rinsed off the rocks. It was raining hard enough to do that.
Yep.
It gets real slippery when it rains and stops and all the mud gets drug onto the rocks.
Peanut buttery kind of. Yep.
And so it still rained hard enough to where it was rinsing everything off, and there was quite a bit of traction underneath. So, it wasn't that crazy to run dries there.
Okay. That run was still nuts.
It was. I can't.
Yeah, those things you're just like, seriously, that happens?
It still pops up in like my Facebook feed or something like that, and I'm like, I watch it every time.
Dude, I got a ton of stuff. You hanging in?
Yeah, man, I'm good.
Good. You kind of touched on off season a little bit, but it's full time all year round with you guys now.
Yep.
Like, do you get any kind of break? Like, all right,
for
season's
sure.
over, and do you just chill out? Like, how do you see Aaron very often?
Yeah. So, I mean, after World Champs is over and we fly home, we usually take, a week or so of maybe 2, just kind of like downtime. He'll obviously still goes to the gym every day. He just enjoys working out anyway, so he doesn't stop doing that kind of stuff, but it's, light gym work for him. But for me, it's just kind of downtime, chill, like leave the toolbox in the garage, time to ride my own bike, ride my Harley, hang out with my dog, catch up with friends, like go out to dinner, and stuff like that. And then after that, like there's usually Interbike right around there. So we go to Interbike.
And you'll go there too,
Yep.
like just to be in meetings and
exactly
figure stuff out.
Yep. So he'll go for, autograph signings and meet sponsors and stuff like that. And then, if there's contracts to work on or anything like that, he'll do that. I go with him. I generally enjoy Interbike and walking around and seeing people in the industry. Like, it's a blast being at an event where everybody's there and I'm not working.
Yeah.
But I do go and sit down in meetings and stuff with sponsors that we're working with. If we're developing a product and stuff like that, it's a good time for us to give face-to-face feedback on what we found in the season and work on improvements if there's prototypes to look at or go over and stuff like that, and chat about things. So still good for me to go and talk about the mechanical side of things with a lot of the sponsors.
Yep.
I enjoy it. Like, I really enjoy having a hand in like developing stuff like that. So
yeah, I was going to say, is that something that is surprising that you get to be involved in all that? And like, I want to get to the bike and all that too, but sure. Like with the product development,
Yep. I love the product development. Being a fan of the sport before I was in the position I'm in, like I loved looking through the pit bit photos to look at like the prototype parts and like all the little trick bits on the bike and what's different, you know, like the CNC parts, the in stuff like
Custom
that.
one-off stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, to have a hand in developing that, and to be, you know, one of 3 people working on this project and like developing a new product or something like that in the beginning is like, dude, this is super cool. You know, whether it's been a frame or a bike or parts, you know, whatever's on there. I genuinely and do enjoy it. Part of it's like a kind of a fanboy side of it for sure. But the other hand is like to sit down around a table of, you know, engineers and be able to, you know, converse back and forth with them. And they listen to you and they listen to your input, and then your feedback goes directly into that product. Yeah. And then you get a sample back and you get to try it and run it. And it's like, I mean, I've had things that I asked for and didn't work. And I've had things that were like an idea. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to make this, but it would be cool if it did this. Like, there's my idea on
anything
that.
you can say specifically?
Not at the moment.
Not yet? Okay.
Yeah. There's stuff we're still working on. But there's just things that I've asked for and like, or had an idea for or solution to. And I'm like, you know, I'm not an engineer. I don't know how exactly or if you can make it, but here's my idea. Here's how it would be cool to work. And if it looked like this and did that, and then there's, you know, a team of engineers and they kind of start scratching their brains, and then all of a sudden, dude, you got a part in your hand.
That's so cool.
And I was like, man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I genuinely enjoy that and love doing that and being part of that process.
Cool. When do you guys feel like, okay, this is end of preseason, we have a deadline to be ready for the race? Or you're like, it's got to be a month out? Is it the day before the first race? Like, do you kind of have a deadline like that where everything's tested, we're good to go, now it's time to race?
No, not like a hard deadline.
Okay.
I mean, we do have schedules and that we adhere to just for logistical purposes of getting things done, like photo shoots and stuff like that. So, you know, photo shoots have to be done X amount of days before the World Cup so that you have so many days to make the autograph cards, to get the posters made and stuff like that with the new images. So in that sense, yeah, there's deadlines with that kind of stuff, you know. And so to make that happen, you kind of work backwards, you know. So then there's a deadline for like parts kind of have a no later than date that need to be shipped or showed up. And then so the bikes can be built and stuff like that. But
even if there was like a prototype part that you'd want it 2 weeks before the race, or you're not going to use it?
No, because you never want to rush prototype stuff.
Okay.
There's no rush on prototype stuff on our end, because it has to, especially like now when we've got the World Cup lead after the first round. Like, you know, you don't want to rush something and jeopardize something breaking or failing at a crucial time. So no, there's no rush. We don't ask for stuff or a rush on prototype stuff. You know, like if it's a new tire mold or whatever like that, we know it's going to work. We've tested it. Then it's like, as far as like team supply, it's like, okay, like, yeah, we know, no joke, need this many tires by, you know, this time or whatever. And so it's like, yeah, you can ask for a rush on that kind of stuff. But when you're prototyping or developing a part, that's exactly what you're doing. Like, you're working through the process, you're working out the kinks. And if there's still stuff wrong or things that need to be worked on, like, you just don't want to, you just wait. Like, you don't want to rush that kind of thing or run it.
Got it.
So
have you ever had to do any ghetto setups to get things done that people might have noticed or might not have?
I can probably think of one that people saw or noticed, but I wasn't part of it. It was before my time.
Okay.
But you know, between Aaron and I, like, no, I'm kind of a mindset and a working mindset, I guess, of like just doing things right all the time, and not having to, you know, do anything ghetto to your setup to make something work. And I take that into how I help develop product or stuff on the bike as well, on my side of things, because like on the mechanic side of things, because I've been a mechanic in bike shops, and where it's like, oh, like if the customer wants this on their bike, then they need this, and to put that on, like, it sucks because you got to do this special like little trick. And so then you're like, you don't want to do that. And so then you steer the customer towards like a different product. So it's like those dudes are the ones that are selling the product a lot of the time and to customers. And so if it sucks to put on, or if it sucks to work on, or you got to do some ghetto little trick to make it work, like those dudes aren't going to want to sell that kind of stuff because they're the ones that are going to have to work on it. And like, they don't like working on that. Yeah. And so I take that mindset into, with the new bike.
Yeah. Talk about the TUES a little bit.
Yeah. Like the mechanics had a big, input into that as well. We sat down and they wanted to know, they asked, what do you like about working on the bike? What don't you like working about on the bike? And let's address those issues. And so,
like, is the one-sided hardware, is that one of the things? Like, I thought that idea was sick. Like, why do you have to have Allen wrenches on all sides of the bike?
You don't have to have two sets of Allen wrenches to torque something down. Instead of, at that pivot point, instead of checking 4 bolts, you're checking 2. And so it just saves time and efficiency all the way down to like the rear axle. The other
the little nub that the axle's threaded in, so there's a nub, so you can't do the drive side Allen wrench without it backed out. That was sick.
Yeah, like and like even putting the wheel in, like with through axles, you don't, I'm all about quickness and efficiency and stuff like that. And in situations in the pit, I want to do things quickly and get Aaron back on the track as fast as possible if there's, say, a flat tire. So I want to be able to just like throw the rear wheel, just slam it into the dropouts and throw the axle through. And so I was noticing, I think it took me with the old axle, I want to say 12 or so revolutions to get the axle out. So the threads are super fine.
Yep.
And then there was, once you had it in, there's also like another bolt that threaded into the axle on the drive side that was like a kind of safety insurance bolt to make sure that your axle never backed out. And so there was basically like a 2-step process just to get your axle out. And in a quick situation, like you don't want to have to be doing that. Yeah. So I asked for fewer and coarser threads on the axle, and then I think they came up with the nipple idea on the end of the axle where it just like kind of slammed in and guided itself in.
Yep.
So that was good, but now it's down to like 5 or 6 revolutions. And so I can just like spin my Allen wrench, boom, it's tight, one little snug, and then we're off to the races.
And for the consumer, it's like, it's not a pain in the ass for them either.
Exactly.
So,
it's less tools you need, cuts down on your time, makes it easier. Like you can't mess it up. On each side, there's little, what do I want to call them? Edges or ledges that your axles hit. So instead of like, you can, slam your wheel into the dropouts now. There's a stopping point there. Before there wasn't. You're
kind of like feeling out, making sure the axle can find the hole in your hub and everything.
Yep. And so kind of that's no more. It just makes things easier. Yeah. And then, the one-sided thing, there's less bolts on there, less things to torque, less tools needed, and it looks a lot cleaner.
It's super clean.
Yeah. And so it's just little things like that. But happy to have like that kind of stuff because in the end consumer now enjoys working on their bikes. And the mechanics at the shops are going to enjoy working on those bikes because it's simple, it's easy, and it's a lot easier for mechanic to be like, heck yeah, I'll do a bolt check on that because there's like 4 bolts I need to check.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'll do that while you wait. And that versus like, you need to leave your bike for 3 days, while I do all the stuff because I'm going to have to go find torque specs and all that. And like torque specs are on the bolts. It's all written right there. You don't have to go look for it. You don't have to find it. You don't have to research anything. So just stuff like that. And same thing, with everything else that we work on and help develop. It's like on the mechanic side, I just want to make it as easy and as simple as possible because that's the kind of stuff that people want to buy. They don't want to worry about it. They want to work on it themselves if they have to, and it's simple if they do. Yeah. So,
what's your favorite tool?
I get asked that a lot. I have a couple of them. I think my newest favorite one is my hanger alignment gauge from Abbey Bike Tools. So it's just a sick, super precise tool anyways. And then Jason Quaid over there just recently sent me the titanium version. And I forget what it was. He's made them on 2 occasions. And I forget the total amount he's ever made. It's something low, like 16 or 20, like 2 batches of 16 or something like that. So there's only like 30 of them in the world. And he sent me one this off season. And I was like, dude, like didn't tell me. He's like, I'm sending a little packet, and that was in there. And I sent him a text. I was like, dude, thanks. Like, this thing's sick. And he's like, well, you deserved it. Like, congratulations on the season. So it was kind of like a cool little, championship prize from him.
Yeah.
So I love that tool. It's not a tool you use a lot, but when you need it, like you have to have that tool to straighten the gate or to straighten the hanger.
Yeah.
And that thing's so simple and easy to use. It's super light. Even like the regular one, the non-titanium one's like mega light. Every time I show people or put it in their hands, it's like, whoa, like they play with it and they're like, dude. And that's my thing with all the tools they make over there is when you put it in your hands or you use it, like first thought is like, that's how that tool is supposed to work. Like that's how things are supposed to work. Like you're not supposed to feel flex or do all this weird stuff. So my other favorite tool is the what do you call it? Like the rotor truing tool from him. And so I use that thing all the time.
Really?
Yeah. And it's a beer opener. So it's kind of like a mandatory from the
Double
mechanics. Yep. And then Bursman has like a pad spacing tool. It's like you just slip it right over the rotor and push it in, and it separates your pads from your rotor and gets like that perfect gap between your pad and your rotor. And so, no rub if you're having issues with that.
Cool. What at the race, what's your favorite thing to work on and your least favorite?
Least favorite's changing tires. Hands down. Like, I hate changing
more than
tires.
like setting up pits.
Yeah, way
Really?
more.
Yeah.
I'd rather set up pits, set them up and tear them down all day long. And it's not even like the FTD or the inserts or anything like that. Even before that, like just at the end of the day, man, like the last thing I want to do is change tires. Like, I don't know what it is. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't take any extra time, but it's usually the first thing I tackle because it's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah.
Like the last thing I want to do after I clean the bike and prep it and all that. And I look over and I see just dirty tires that I have to change still. I'm like, but on the other hand, I mean, I'm really efficient with tires. Like if I can make them stretch an extra day, I will. and so we don't waste a lot of tires when I'm around. Favorite thing to work on? Honestly, I mean, there's everything that's on the bike is so easy to work on. Like it's not hard.
Go ahead, sorry.
Like our brakes, like, dude, I don't have to re-bleed our brakes throughout the weekend. Like we just don't. And it's not even like a sponsorship plug or anything like that. But like, dude, the TRPs are seriously, I don't think I bled Aaron's brakes on his practice bike all off season. Like I just never had to touch them. They just always felt sick. I put new pads on, when they wear out, and that was it. And same thing at the races. Like I did not, once I get them set up, like they're done. And I think even the year before, I want to say all year, I'd be hard pressed to say I bled his brakes 4 times.
Really?
Yeah. Like probably less than, I can count on one hand for sure how many times I bled his brakes all year long.
Yeah.
And so those things are like, they're a cakewalk to work on. And once they're set up, like they're so consistent. It never comes down to like, this brake feels weird. Like give it a bleed. Never.
Yeah. Do you have a checklist for the race prep bike? Like how are you able to get it set up and walk away? Like it seems I'd have a tendency to be like, I got to touch this. I got to spot shine this. Got to do that. Like,
I still do that, man.
Yeah.
Like I can't walk away from it. Aaron jokes. He'll be sitting over there, something like that. He's like, you're going to rub the paint off that thing. Like, quit cleaning it. I do have a checklist. But it's, it's nothing crazy. I kind of keep it simple in my head. It's for race prep. I just, the bike's prepped in the morning before practice. And so that's when it's, the most perfect, and it does 2 practice runs. And so, that gives a chance for the fresh tires to beat up and pressures to stay consistent. And then when it comes back down after practice in the morning, I've got a good amount of time, couple hours to prep it. But, if everything's gone right, didn't smash a bash guard or, get a flat or anything like that, then all I do is just drop the wheels out of the bike. I pull the shock out so I can check the linkage, make sure it feels smooth, and then it also allows me to clean everything. The biggest thing is cleaning the bike. and the mechanics say it all the time. They always say, like, you know, people always ask mechanics, like, what's one thing you tell, you know, your average Joe to do? Like, if there's one thing, it's always clean your bike. Yeah. And I don't think people take it serious. They're just like, oh yeah, cool, like clean bike, like it looks good. But when you clean your bike, it allows you to, like, obviously make it look good, but you get up and close and personal with everything. Mm-hmm. That's when you can notice a loose bolt. That's when you can notice a crack in the frame if there is one, a loose spoke. Like, I clean each spoke. Like, I run the rag up and down every spoke. And I forget where we were. It was some race, and Aaron was sitting there, and I was cleaning spokes, and the guy looked over me kind of like a little snooty, and he's like, does he make you clean every spoke on purpose? Something like that. And I was like, I looked at Aaron's like, no, like I don't ask him to clean anything. Like, he likes clean tires, but that's about it. But I was like, no, I wipe at each and every spoke, because for one, you can feel for loose spokes. We check spoke tension anyways, but you can feel for a loose one, or if one's been nicked or bent, you can catch it. You know, when you rub your finger over it, you can feel that little irregular. What do you call that word?
Irregularity.
There you go. In it when you run your finger over it. So.
Would you change out a spoke if it had a ding or a little bend?
Yeah, I mean, if it was cut or, you know, had a nick out of it or something like that, like, yeah I'd swap that out.
Okay.
And so, you know, it's just attention to detail on cleaning the bike. So basically, like I said, I just drop the wheels, pull the shock out so I can feel the linkage, and then I can clean all the nooks and crannies, and do a full inspection, you know, make sure there's no cracks, make sure there's no, especially if there's a crash or anything like that.
Yep.
And it allows you to just get in all the nooks and crannies, clean everything out, clean the shock, put the shock back in, and then put the wheels back in and clean the wheels. Yeah. And that's it. Like, bikes, race prep, you know, wipe the chain off, lube it real quick. But we've already checked suspension pressure, so there's no double checking that, especially if it's good after the first run. You're like, you don't want to open them up again.
Yep.
So, you know, you're not checking clickers, you're not doing anything. You do a bolt check, but it's not like a full, like putting a turn on every bolt. You know, it's for me, it's more of a mental thing where, like, I start from front to back, and I'll just put the wrench on the bolt and give it like a little, almost like just a touch. Like, it doesn't turn, you just feel it.
Tight. Make sure it's snug, basically.
Tight. Yeah. And like, so you're not putting another torque wrench on it. You're not wrenching on it. You're just touching every bolt front to back. And then from that point on, like, I'll overinflate the tires up to like 40 PSI. And then that way I don't have to worry about pumping them up at the top. So when he gets up, I can just air him down.
Got it.
So that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just make sure it's nice and clean and ready to go for him.
What keeps you up at night?
I don't know. I try not to I give him the old General Mattis saying of nothing keeps me up at night. I keep people up at night.
That's
yeah,
good.
No, nothing keeps me up at night, man. I got all kinds of checklists in my head and I go through them and stuff. But like I said, it's when you're confident in your work and you know what you're doing and you know that you've done your best, you know you've checked the bike. Like, there's no sense in staying up all night wondering if you've checked it. Yeah. I've freaked out when he's left the pit or something like you've put a new front tire on. So you put it on and like you've obviously tightened the axle and you've tightened the pinch bolts and he's left, but then you're like, did I tighten the pinch bolts? I do remember actually, like, you can picture it in your head, but you're still like, but did I really do it? Or did I think I did it? And then you're like, oh, of course I did. You know, it's little stuff like that, but no, nothing keeps me up at night.
Cool. What race are you looking forward to most this year?
I always look forward to Leo Gang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good atmosphere.
Yeah, it's such a good atmosphere. They're cool pits. Everything's really centrally located. Like, the views are ridiculous. Like, those mountains are massive. And when you see them in person, it kind of takes your breath away. And then you realize that you go down a track staring at that mountain the whole time. You're like, it's pretty epic. Yeah. And the track's actually a lot better than what the internet thinks it is.
Yeah, it seems like that's been the consensus from kind of all the the fast people, they're like,
Yeah.
Leo Gang's not that bad.
Dude, it's,
You know?
yeah, it's not easy.
Mhm.
Like if you've been in that wood section, it's gnarly.
Yeah.
Like, dude, there's some gnarly sections in there. You know, people see like the motorway or the jump section or something like that, and so they think the whole track is that way, but it's not.
Yep.
So I always look forward to Leo Gang, even though he's snapped his chain there and blown a tire off. Like,
Yeah,
had some pretty epic runs there, but for some reason, yeah, so we still like going back to that one.
Does the gap right now between first and second race, is that a pain in the ass? Does it not really matter? It just seems
Nah.
like a huge gap. Like you get all amped up and then you have to sit around for 8
Yeah,
days.
it is a huge gap, but no, it doesn't bother me.
Okay.
No, it's I don't really think about it. I just kind of follow our schedule. We're still busy back here, come back and he keeps training and
Yeah. Are you doing anything like, because it's a big gap, like, hey, we're going to make
no,
massive changes or do anything crazy?
no,
29er at Fort William?
no,
All
no,
right.
no, no. It's just it's a it's a good little break. It's fun to come back home, and then yeah, no, there's nothing crazy we do. It's just back to kind of the training grind for him and back to training runs, stuff like that, going out and shuttling and stuff like that. But yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Are the demands on your time from media, fans, product developing, all that stuff, is that something you were ever expecting? Like,
no.
is it a surprise to you? Are you kind of used to it now? Like, what do you think about all that?
I'm definitely used to it now. Like, it doesn't bother me at all anymore. Like, I really enjoy all of it. And I just enjoy what I do. So it's like, it's not an issue. But no, I never thought it would, like, I don't know. I was just a mechanic before.
Yeah.
But when you wrench for Aaron Gwin, like, it's definitely more attention towards you and the bike you're working on. So, they're not there to see me. They're there taking pictures of the bike and what's on the bike and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm just the front man there that probably knows the most about whatever's on the bike. And so I definitely get a lot of questions from the media. Definitely the dog snoring over here. Definitely, yeah, just the most questions and most attention,
Yeah.
Because they want to see what's on the bike and what we're running different. And especially if he's doing well and winning races and stuff, they always want to know what your secret is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Is it hard to keep things under wraps when you have to?
sometimes, but
Do you guys kind of strategize that way? Like, make sure you don't have to hide stuff as best possible, or?
yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, we try to do like a lot of the prototype and testing stuff like at home and away from media, and you don't want to be testing prototype stuff at races anyways.
Yeah.
You kind of want to show up ready to go and dialed, and so if it's on the bike at that point, like, it's fine to be photographed. There was, except for like a couple small exceptions, like when we're releasing the bike at Croatia this year,
Yeah.
and like it's obviously the first time we were going to ride the bike in public without the cover on.
Yeah.
And so the bikes are just hanging in the back of the truck. Obviously, they didn't have covers on, but like they haven't been fully released yet. And it's like, basically the rules like can't take pictures inside the tent, but like we can't stop people from taking pictures. So it's really not that big a deal either.
Yeah.
And so, you just know those things and you expect them. So yeah, it's not that hard.
Cool. If you had to work on another bike besides the YT, what would you want to work on?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Do you go fiddle with other bikes or
No,
get to
I
see them
don't.
very much? No.
I don't know. I like really simple bikes. Like clean and simple is what I would, it's what I shoot for. So I always look at those bikes. I always see other bikes and it's like, oh, like the bike looks good and looks simple and clean and stuff. So any bike without a lot of pivots, I don't know. Yeah, I can't I can't think of like one that I'm sitting there like, oh, I wish I could work on that bike.
Bender's Armageddon.
No, God, no. Dude, heck no. I don't know. I need like a cheater bar probably to tighten or loosen some of those bolts.
All right. Everyone gets the ask. Who do you hate being beaten by?
No, anybody, man. Anybody.
Come on, that's the one.
I don't know. No, there's nobody like, everybody get like, it's such a cool scene. Like there's no beef out there, you know? Marshy and I always are like battling, you know, as mechanics and stuff, going back and forth. Like I always go over there and bug him to see what he's running and stuff. There's a fun story about that in Switzerland last year. I walked by his pits and he was cleaning the chainring from Greg's bike. Yeah. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, I was going to clean my chainring too, but I just tossed it and put a new one on. And like, he was like, and looked down. He's like, yeah, we'll have like 2 or 3 more teeth to clean here. And he goes, and it's clean. And I'm throwing it away and putting a new one on now. Like,
vibed him out.
Yeah. But like, I legitimately, like, I didn't do it on purpose. Like I legit looked at my sprocket and I was like, it's pretty old. Like it's been on there for a while. I'm going to put a new one on. And like, so I didn't do it on purpose to like mess with him or anything like that. But like, I laughed so hard. So like me and Marshy give each other quite a hard time quite a bit, but it's all in good fun. And, I don't hate being beat by him. Yeah. Cool. So.
All right. World champs. What's it going to take?
Yep.
You guys getting nervous that it's like, it's eluding?
No. Nah. It's, obviously like I want him to win it really bad. He wants to win it really bad. And, I think I heard him say it was, for a while it was like, like it's whatever. Like the overall is more important, but it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, like I do want to win it. Like I don't want to never win it. So, it's like, heck yeah, I want to win it and I'm going to try everything that we need to get there and to do it. But it's, I don't know. I don't get nervous at world champs. Yeah. It's still just kind of a one-off race for me. Like,
is it too different a vibe to what you guys are used to, or does it feel the same enough just with jerseys and teams and all that?
It is a different vibe, but it's not at the same time because it's like, it's a World Cup venue. You've been there before. You've raced a World Cup there. Yeah. And so you kind of have that vibe, but it's a whole different, it's a new set of faces. There's the federations are there. There's different jerseys. So, we see people from USA Cycling that we don't normally see. And so it's always good to like catch up with those dudes. And then, we see Loic go by and you're used to seeing him in a jersey. And then you see him go by in the French national jersey and you're like, wait, oh, yep. And so it's just kind of like, that's the only thing that's really different, and, but yeah, it's a different schedule. So that kind of is like, throws you off a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of a long week, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a long week and a lot of practice, and a lot of short practices. So, but I don't know. It might be a different schedule this year. Not real sure.
Okay.
And so, I don't know. I look forward to it still. And last year was cool. Got his first medal, 3rd place, but I think he knew he could have won that one. So he was still like, but it was still good to like, cool. Got the first medal. Yep. Can build off that. Yep. So I don't know. I'm excited for it. Lenzerheid's a cool track. He's good there. Yeah. So it's got a shot.
Cool. What are your thoughts on like your career longevity doing this? And like, if you weren't working with Aaron, would you still want to do this?
Yeah. I don't know. I've thought about it. It's, I don't know. It's tough. Working with Aaron's like, it's the best. Yeah. That's the sick. Like, I've always worked on a sick team and, cool sponsors and everything, but I've got a lot of relationships. I could kind of do whatever I want. So if I wanted to keep wrenching and stuff, I'd just have to cross that bridge when I got there, see how I felt and kind of what was on the horizon at that time. It's hard to plan that far ahead.
Sure.
But for the time being, man, I'll just keep wrenching for Aaron and, whenever he's done, then, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. If there's another opportunity to keep doing what I want to do and it's, good, then cool. I'll keep doing that. But if it's, something else in the industry, whether it's working for a brand or doing, continuing product development, like I really enjoy that side of things. So I could see myself going that route. But options are open. I'm just down for whatever. I just like the bike industry, man. As long as I stay in the industry and do what I love, then I'm stoked.
Cool. All right. If we weren't doing this interview right now, what would you be doing?
Oh,
it's so drizzly. It's cold today.
It's a little drizzling cold. I would normally say probably going for a ride on my Harley, but not today. Tomorrow for sure. It's supposed to be like 90. So.
Yeah, it's super hot.
Yeah, it's all the hot weather's coming. So I'll be on my Harley then. But yeah, probably just chilling out, hanging with my dog and
Getting computer work done, catching up on emails and doing that kind of stuff, getting ready for Fort William.
Cool. All right. What's your Instagram handle at Juan Hall?
Yep. It's at Juan Hall, JUANHALL. You can find me there. That's pretty much my main go-to social media.
Cool. Dude, thanks for being on.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
No
Thanks
worries.
For the insight.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. It was fun.
Yeah, dude. Sick. Stoked for you guys. Yeah. And Bafus, what up?
Yeah. What up, Bafus?
Awesome, dude. Thanks for tuning in to Vital MTB's The Inside Line podcast. Episodes drop every other Wednesday. Thanks to Jensen USA and Maxxis Tires for the support. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Vital MTB.